Boom, boom, chicka down, chicka boom, boom, chicka down, chicka down, bow, chicka bop ba doom, chicka bow, bow, chicka down, chicka bow, bow, chicka bow ba doom, chicka bow, bow, chicka doom. I really need an intro song because that is horrible. If you're just joining us, why are so many people texting? If you're just joining us, welcome. Thank you for being here. It is Tuesday night, October 22nd, 7 p.m. on the East Coast. I guess if you're in Australia, it's October 23rd. If you're here, say hi. Let us know you're here. Where are you from? And we'll let everyone get in and get settled, and then we will start. I touched up my appearance. It's a little blurry. I think I'm gonna. Hi, Jen. You are on time. I'm on time too. I feel pretty good about this. It's a good start. I think I'm gonna dial the moderate touch up my appearance. I think that's the way to go. Eric B in the house. It's been a minute. Robert Spence. Hey, Robert. Good to see you. Like I said, if you're just joining us, that means you missed my intro music, which is probably a good thing since I sang it myself. I make Sizemore. So that's a win, and that's a win column for today. Hey, if you need a silver lining, you're sitting down, you're writing your gratitudes at the end of the day. Not hearing me singing at the beginning of this is a win. Hermit Crab's in the house. Beth Carducci. It has been an easy year, and the fact that it's almost over is freaking nuts. Absolutely crazy. If you're just joining us, say hello. Let us know you're here, where you're from. Favorite holiday cookie? I don't know. Crabducci. I like it. I'm in for that. All right, let me get through some of the housekeeping notes, and then we can jump into some conversation. And also, I hope everyone had an amazing OCD Awareness Week. It was action-packed. There was so much going on. So hope Robert coming in hot with the emojis. I like it. Also, I've never taken a look at your profile picture, Robert. That's awesome. I mean, I have, but Bonnie's making an appearance. Hi, Bonnie. Okay, we don't need that. Do you want to sit next to me and help me host? Okay, come sit right there. All right. So, oh, hi, Beth. I'm just pulling everything up. Hi, Kathleen. Good to see you. So this community at conversation. Well, if you don't know me, my name is Ethan. I'm an advocate for the National Organization of IOCDF Foundation. I am an advocate for the IOCDF. This community conversation is intended to serve as educational content and is not intended to replace therapy. For treatment-related questions, please be sure to work with your local provider or contact a local clinician. Sorry, there we go. Or contact a local clinician. The International OCD Foundation is not a crisis hotline. If you are in a crisis or ever feeling suicidal or unsafe, please go to your local emergency room, call 911 or the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988. As always, when we want to create as safe a space as possible, at the end of the day, we are here to support one another. So keep that in mind, that we are recording on all social media platforms. So as we divulge and talk about really personal stuff, just keep that in mind. And with that, welcome to this late October community conversation. Hi, HG from Kansas. Hi, Corey. Isostasia in the house. Stacey Hirschman. It's good to see everyone. Mad Bannister coming in hot from UK. Always love the energy. Always brings the energy. Like, ah. Whoops! I'm just bringing up everything. I don't even know how to work this anymore. Hi, Madeline. It's good to see you. So I hope everyone's doing really good tonight. Obviously, there is lots we can talk about. I always like to open it up to you all first. What's on your mind? What's bugging you? Are there any questions I can answer, or any things you want to talk about that are important to you? How was your OCD Awareness Week? Did you see anything cool or exciting? Did you go to a walk? Fill me in a little bit, and we'll start there. I'll start with me. So on, let's see, on last weekend, I spoke at the Kansas affiliate, which was really, really nice. Katie and I both spoke at that, and that was pretty awesome. and then did various things throughout the week. It was very, very busy. And then I was blessed enough for the OCD Georgia affiliate, the IOCDF affiliate, to ask me to grand marshal their walk. So Sunday I went to the walk. I got to speak, got to meet a lot of amazing people. And so it was a advocacy-filled community togetherness week, which I love. Carrie, almost met your fundraising goal. That's awesome. How much do you have left and where can we donate? So that pretty much sums up my week, combined with work and all the other exciting things that consists of a week. But it was always exciting to see everybody advocating and supporting. Hey, Jenna. Yeah, it was awesome, Eric. And so I'm curious. Oh, there we go. Stacy Hirschman. The Philadelphia walk was amazing. So many community supporters and such a beautiful day. Sean talk was very heartfelt. That's awesome. I love that. I'm so glad you went. Yeah, everybody does an amazing job. OCD Midwest had 3 walks, which is incredible. And I love that, Eric. I wasn't able to make the walk this time, but I'll probably do the Alzheimer's walk. There's so many walks. I mean, there's a lot of people support. I just need $25. I'm going to make the last donation. That's amazing. Congratulations, Corey. I think I said Carrie before. I apologize. But that's awesome, Corey. I'm so excited. Yeah, the community came out in force. The affiliates did an incredible job, and the community is. I always marvel at the community, and specifically the OCD community. As someone whose work takes me to various advocacy communities, with individuals that are experiencing different disorders, diseases, things like that, I have to say that that this community is something special. They really, really are. So I am so excited. Hi, Kyle. Good to see you. Yeah, the Philadelphia walk. It sounds like I wish we could go to all of them, or they were live streamed, or everybody. That'd be awesome if you could see. If you could see all the different walks that are going on. That would be fantastic. So Trainwreck, have you tried ICBT at all, or are you against it until there are more studies on it? It's a great question. I will be honest, I have limited knowledge about ICBT. I would never say I'm against something I don't fully understand. I think there are a lot of studies on it. I think there are more studies that also need to come out. But I also wholeheartedly believe that, and so does the IOCDF, frankly, that, and I know there's lots of feelings on this, and this is kind of a hot topic among professionals. I think that we as individuals with lived experience need as many opportunities to get freedom from OCD as possible. And therefore we need just as many medications and treatments and everything like that as we can put out there. And I know the IOCDF feels the same way. So, whatever you hear, the reality of it is, I think we're all open to as many potential treatments as possible. And I know that some individuals lots of individuals, in fact, have had some really good experiences with ICBT. ERP and exposure and response prevention is still, the first line gold standard of treatment. And I think there's a number of things that have to happen until we talk about ICBT and the way that we do ERP. That's just my own opinion. And curious to what you all think. But I do think that, if you've tried ERP a number of times and some other things and they haven't worked for you, I think that ICBT is something, you should potentially look into. I just don't know that it's a place to start at this time, but I can see why it's appealing. And I probably need to do some additional homework on it before I speak more to it. But that's just my basic insight, or at least opinion on it at this time. Is I think at the end of the day, we need as many treatment options as possible, and I hope that they continue to do studies and see how things flush out. So and Trainwreck, I'm curious if what and if you have any thoughts, or anybody else has thoughts. Matt, if you want to weigh in or speak to ICBT, please feel free. I just don't like to weigh in heavily on things that I'm not super familiar with, though I do need to read up. Madeline, I have a couple really triggering days. How do you choose when resisting becomes somewhat painful? I know the response prevention is the key, and all my natural exposures that just happen feel like a 9. I'm having trouble resisting any advice. It's contamination based. Yeah, absolutely, Madeline. So I think that I think resisting for a lot of us is really challenging. So you're not alone in that. And yes, the RP is really the key to this whole thing. The response prevention is, in fact, the key to managing, mitigating, and eventually getting the OCD to quiet down considerably. Natural exposures are really hard. They tend to catch us off guard as opposed to purposeful. If you don't know what natural exposures are, just things that happen during the day that naturally trigger you. And when you're at a 9 or a 10, obviously the higher your anxiety hits, and the more emotionally dysregulated you may become, the harder it is to deal with. I know for me, when I was, and even currently sometimes am, extremely triggered, it's difficult to remember the skills and tools. It's challenging to remember the skills and tools. Insight goes out the window. Objectivity goes out the window, right? And it's really easy to be like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Okay, I can just do this thing and everything and makes it feel better. And that's easy to do. And so lots and lots of self-compassion, Madeline, number 1. Number 2, I think it's really important to, when you find yourself, when you become aware that you're engaged in a compulsion, that's the opportunity then to then pause and resist it. Start to feel the discomfort and be willing to sit with the uncertainty and discomfort around whatever you're experiencing. So sometimes we get in a habit, right, of compulsing so much that we start to fuse again and not feel that space between obsessive thought and then compulsive reaction. So and compulsions can feel automatic, especially when you're so triggered and you're so heightened, your anxiety is so high. So what's the answer then? If I don't even know that I'm doing it, I'm just doing it. At some point, you recognize that you're engaging in a compulsion. You do become present and into a present moment. And it's at that time that you want to catch yourself and go, maybe I should try to not engage in this. As far as why resist, I think there's a couple good reasons. Number 1 is OCD gets worse and worse and worse. We want to live toward our values and things that we really care about. I know it's easier said than done, but the more we give in, the more we say yes to the OCD, the smaller our lives become. And we have to keep in mind that the discomfort is temporary. If we can be consistent with our response prevention actions, then the discomfort truly, 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 truly is temporary. So a conversation you can have with yourself is, I'm going to be willing to feel the discomfort and pain now to feel better tomorrow. I'm willing to put up with all the ick to feel stronger and more confident and quiet the OCD tomorrow. I think it's important to remember that it's a delayed win, right? You may not feel better in the moment today if you're really struggling, but if you truly response prevent, I don't know, is that a thing? If you truly engage in that and you're willing to surrender to the fear, whatever the contamination fear, Madeline, may be, willing for that to happen or come true or just right or whatever the feeling is, it really will quiet down. And all of us have experienced that. All of us here have had those moments where we've done the skills, used the tools, and we've experienced relief. ERP works, treatment works, ACT works, they all work, right? But we just have to do the work. Sometimes we can get stuck back in the loop. So it's important to reground ourselves, catch ourselves when we become aware that we are compulsing, and go from there. So Madeline, and we can continue to talk about, like, if individuals are having a hard time, if you guys are having a hard time, engaging in response prevention in the moment, we can definitely go down a list of skills and tools that at least help me and maybe help you as well. HG ordered a DoorDash today for the first time that I can remember with a fountain drink too, and it barely bothered me. That's awesome.
that's a huge win. That's that OCD just kind of taking a backseat to everything. And you can kind of say, like, oh, there it is. I hear it a little bit, but damn, this fountain drink is great. So I'm just gonna go deep diving into this DoorDash. Out of curiosity, what did you get to eat? Because I'm hungry. That's awesome. And I agree with Robert. That is for sure a victory. Eric wrote that almost all of the exposures are natural. I've had a lot of those lately due to all the massive changes in your life. So change brings about stress, discomfort, can definitely exacerbate OCD and related disorders. And therefore, it can be really challenging. I know for me, when I'm engaged in some sort of massive change, my stress levels increase, and so do the obsessive thoughts. So that makes a lot of sense, and I really hope that when you experience, I try to view it as when I experience something that is triggering to my OCD in its natural form, that it's an opportunity to beat it down even further. I'm not actively engaging in intentional exposures. I'm not in that kind of treatment anymore. And so when there's an opportunity to beat OCD down a little bit, when something triggers, I try to look at it as a wonderful opportunity to feel miserable and fight this bad boy. So the next time, maybe it doesn't bother me as bad. It's been a challenging year on the health front for me. I'm healthy. I think, and for the most part, very, very happy. But my OCD has been really challenged. My anxiety has been really challenged. So, for those of you that have struggled this year, I feel like I'm definitely in the mix with that. It's been challenging. I will say though that I've been reminded, and we've talked about it some, at least in my personal situation, I've been reminded how well the skills and tools work, and how when your back is up against a wall and OCD is really screaming at you, and it feels so real, and it seems so irresponsible to ignore it, but you do, how powerful that is, and how much OCD will back off when you truly stand up to it. And so, and my compulsions are kind of soft, mental, and not obvious. So I often have to stop myself and say, this is a compulsion. That's a great term, a soft compulsion. Yeah, those are tricky because they can build. Sometimes we call them, if they're physical, they can be micro avoidances or micro compulsions. And definitely, our OCD uses the same weapon that we do, which is our brain, which is very creative. It's very smart. It's very savvy. It's very manipulative. And our brains can do a really good job of trying to convince ourselves that the thoughts that we're having, the way we're engaging in them, is in our best interest, is in fact value driven. And it does a really good job of turning that against us. And I think it takes a lot of insight and to be able to be like, you know what, something's fishy about this. Something's a little off about this. And I really like the term compulsions are kind of soft. I think soft are saying that they're subtle perhaps, or elusive. They don't take the shape of like the big bright orange cone that screams, I'm a compulsion, or I'm an obsession. So I agree. They're definitely tricky. Beth Carducci, I read the comments that you wrote at the top. So disappointed in my brother. He can't seem to tell me when he's sick. I ask, he says no, and he's sick. I had to cancel shopping trip, wash up, and lock myself in my room. More details all. I'm sorry. Yeah, I read your post at the top before I logged in. I'm sorry you experienced that, Beth. That is not fun, and that is what we call a natural exposure. First of all, I'm so proud of and I know everyone here is so proud of the accomplishments that you've made, Beth, the driver's license and the business that you've started and going to the grocery store and getting out there and all of those things. I think you've done an amazing job, and you've had so many wins. Start to sound like Katie when I start repeating myself in threes. So that's first and foremost. I do want to reframe some of this, which is, I do think it is important for people to respect our wishes. And if we don't want to be around somebody that's sick, then they should tell us when they're sick. So I think that is an okay thing. What I do think is, are you disappointed in your brother because he really triggered your OCD? and now your OCD is screaming to you based on the comments that I read above, Beth, you know, that all of this stuff may happen and it's put you at risk, and therefore you feel this way about your brother, right? And I think it's an important distinction to make that Beth Carducci, the sister, is disappointed in her brother because he significantly triggered your OCD and made you extremely anxious. I'm not suggesting that there isn't a part of you. Nobody wants to be sick. Nobody wants to be sick. And there's probably also a part that I read in your comments above that, you know, he seems to take light what you're experiencing and not quite understand, which, as we know, when we've talked about family and friends, is very common. But I also want to play both sides of it and also acknowledge that, you know, it's important to recognize when we're defending our OCD. And that's what I see here, Beth. I think that no one here wants to feel triggered. No one wants to feel like our day is ruined because we now have to do these 10 things in order to feel safe and comfortable again. And in your case, long COVID. And no one here takes that lightly, you know that. But I do want to acknowledge it's important that, you know, that's a defense of the OCD. And yes, COVID is real and long COVID is real and all those things. And you've done some amazing stuff. And so by no means minimizing any of that. At the same time, though, the disappointment in your brother, I believe, is in setting you off, right? And please let me know if that rings true, if that feels honest or truthful to you, if you think that is not the case at all. Like, you know, this is an open conversation. I am always willing to admit when I am wrong or full of shit. Stacy Hirschman, what is your thoughts on seasonal changes in OCD intensifying? I think it's a real thing. I mean, seasonal affectiveness disorder is a disorder as it relates to OCD. I think there are patterns and periods of time when OCD spikes for different people. I typically found historically that the holidays and this time of year, you know, it gets darker early. It's cloudier if you're in a wintry state. Where it's gray, the holidays approach, which is times where there's a lot of togetherness, there's expectations of people are so happy and joyful, and it's the holidays, and we feel an undue pressure to be all these things that we may not feel. And so I definitely think seasonal changes, be it summer or school or holidays or whatever, can definitely have an impact. And I know for me, for many, many years, I had rough patches at the same time of year every time. And I felt like I was cursed, you know? I felt like, what is it about this time? And if I look back at the patterns of my life and when OCD really got loud, it seemed to be at the same time every year. And since then, I've been able to break those patterns. But 100%, I think seasonal changes definitely cause OCD to intensify and other disorders as well. And I think that's completely valid. And I think that's even more of a reason to fight harder. I think... I also think that we can anticipate that. And I don't mean anticipatory anxiety. I mean that we can anticipate that, oh, the holidays are coming up. I'm probably going to be more triggered than usual. I don't want to see anyone here default or feel defeated to that fact, feel controlled by the OCD in previous years and assume that it's going to be that, right? We're coming up to the holidays. This is going to be crap. Oh, it's so, you know, OCD is really hard right now. And it's challenging, and every year something happens, and you know, I would love to approach it with a mind frame of, this is the year that I change that. This is the year that I hold the power. This is the year that I have skills and tools, and I'm going to plan for the best, expect the worst, and hope for somewhere in between, right? And look back and reflect and really look at how many great days did you have? How many great hours did you have? And really reflect on everything. But that is the long-winded answer. You know, I'm a big fan of long-winded answers. That is a long-winded answer of saying, yes, 1000%. Absolutely. If anybody wants to know, my wife is at a Hanson concert. If you remember the band Hanson, that's right. I was invited, but I had community conversations, and I was not willing to go see Hanson in place of seeing all of you. So yeah, it is an acoustic Hanson set night, and I'll just leave it at that. We know where my priorities are. Where are your priorities, Katie? No, I'm totally kidding. She's amazing, and you all know she's amazing. Let's see. Yeah, Beth, I'm sorry to hear about your situation with your brother. It does seem like it could be a trust issue. That's a good point too. Could be a trust issue as well. Yeah. Eric wrote, Beth, my stepkids have a dynamic kind of like that, and one has OCD. I know that's frustrating. Absolutely. And please don't think that I was, hey, Summer, please don't think that I was suggesting that it wasn't frustrating or uncomfortable, or your feelings and experience with it was 1,000% valid. Totally agree with, in particular, living with other people 100% of the time for the first time in about 20 years is a big factor, especially since my OCD is so people focused. This is in regards to Eric saying that he's having a lot of change in his life, so OCD is being exacerbated. And yes, I agree, Isastasia, and I hope you were well. Jen said, when I first started my healing journey, I realized half my life was compulsions and OCD was making all my decisions. I recognize them now. I choose them occasionally if I'm not in the mood for anxiety. I like the honesty there. I think we all do that. I think I choose them occasionally too sometimes if I'm just like, nope, not in the mood. Sorry. Whatever. But I wholeheartedly agree as well. I think it's important to be able to recognize them. And it's powerful and empowering to remember that you do hold the power, that you hold all the cards in this conversation, in this game. Beth, I ask him once a week. He gets mad, thinks I'm being ridiculous. I can't trust him now. It's not hard to tell me if he's not feeling good. That's valid. That is totally valid. That is totally valid. Oh, perfect. Madeline, if you want to look into more, I recommend checking out ICBT.online. It's a great website for resources for everything ICBT. And I think all I can remember is the bad word. I'm a horrible human. But effing, I think that response to you too. You can check out more information about ICBT as well. Deleuze in the house. I'm not sure what I should do to address my OCD. Been difficult getting up in the morning for 3 weeks. And I also have a lot of shame and guilt about manic episodes. As someone diagnosed with bipolar, I can relate to manic episodes. I want to offer a couple pieces of advice. One is give yourself a lot of self-compassion, especially around the shame and the guilt. You have OCD. I'm not sure where. I know that we've talked about. You may have told me that you have bipolar. You may not. But regardless, manic episodes, all of those things, this is part of our condition, and you're not choosing this. It's not a decision. So I would give yourself a lot of self-compassion around that. As far as difficulty getting up in the morning, I think that's also okay. Okay in terms of it's very challenging for a lot of us to get up at times. So that's normal. What I would suggest is, or ask you, is how much weight are you giving your feelings and your emotions? I don't feel like getting up. It's really, really hard, so I'm not going to. Versus, this feels like absolute crap. I feel like crap, and I'm going to do this day feeling like crap. And if I'm crying, if I'm upset, if I'm in a terrible mood, I'm going to bring all that stuff with me, and I'm going to do this day anyway, because that is the value decision to do. Are you having that conversation at all? Or do you feel like you're really being ruled by your emotions? What's the most helpful way you've learned to tolerate distress? Great question. And while there's lots and lots of skills and tools to tolerate distress, from 5 senses and engaging in grounding exercises and even meditation, honestly, the best way that I've found to deal with distress is to embrace it, which sounds weird, at least distress related to OCD. Understanding that this too shall pass if I follow these 3 steps, and being okay not being okay, and saying to myself, this feels really crappy right now. I'm going to be okay with that. I am going to accept that I feel crappy in this moment. and that I feel distressed and it feels really anxiety provoking. And instead of being angry that I feel that way, instead of feeling frustrated that I feel that way, instead of feeling like that has ruined my day or ruined whatever experience I'm engaging in, that I'm going to recognize that is part of my disorder. It can happen for no reason. It can happen for some reason. And I know by inviting it in, you don't have to give it tea. You just can invite it in and not trying to push against it. I know that it will subside and go away, and I won't make OCD stronger. And it is so hard to do. I'm not sitting here saying, it's easy, you can do it. Yes, you can do it too. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I'm not sitting here saying this is so easy to do, just do it. But, there are things that we can do to tolerate stress. You can go for a walk. You can start looking at things around you. You can get into something. But all of that requires the ability to change your focus. Change your focus from the distress, from the thing that's distressing you, and move it to something that's value-driven and that's important. And that can many times feel very scary, very irresponsible, and all of the above. So, while there's lots of little things that we can do to lower distress, to lower anxiety, so then we can fight the distress, and there's lots of skills that help us do that. We don't want those skills to become compulsive. I don't want to start meditating every time I feel anxious, because if that's my go-to every time, then that could become compulsive. So ultimately, this idea of embracing the discomfort with the understanding that I'm not settling. I'm not settling that this is my life, and I'm not surrendering to it. I'm embracing it because I have more information than it does. I know that by doing this, it will go away and I will put OCD to bed. And this is the path to do that. And that gives me a lot of strength and comfort to be able to sit with distress and move forward. Anyway, Amy Ellickson, good to see you in the house. Yes, mine are like asking for reassurance, excessive apologizing, rumination, etc. That's why it took me so long to get diagnosed. That makes sense. I think that was in regards to soft compulsions. Oh, that's amazing. I'm currently working with an ERP OCD therapist, but I'll give it a look. I'm so glad you are. And please keep us updated in how we can support it in any way. Beth, I asked him if he's going to do something about it, get something to eat, and he gets so mad at me. Sorry for caring. It's so hard and so challenging, and it does feel very disrespectful. And I also, there is a balance. There is also, it's not fair to you. You don't want to be flooded. You're trying to navigate these things. Beth, have you, I know you said you talked about your OCD, but have you, and he thinks, all that it's ridiculous and you're being silly and overreacting. Have you had a conversation with him about what you experience, why you experience it, and can he work with, if you want a relationship with me, then we need to work together. And here's some things I need from you. And maybe in the beginning, it may be, I need you to tell me if you're sick or not before we hang out, because right now just getting out is a big exposure, right? So just having that comfort, knowing that he's okay and you're getting out there, but working toward a goal and understanding that we're going to continue moving forward. And at some point, I'm not going to need to ask you. And I need to trust that you'll be able to say something. I mean, I'm guessing that you probably had, but just worth asking, Beth, if you've had that conversation. Let's see here. Deleuze, it's pretty confusing when a part of me knows I shouldn't be so concerned or anxious about OCD thoughts, but then I just feel anxious. Hard to accept that I have these issues still. But there's okay, so it's okay that you're concerned. It's okay. It is okay. It is okay that it still bothers you. It is okay that every time, okay, I'm going to give you insight into me right now. Ready for live insight? Nobody comment, just pay attention. While we were talking about 15 minutes ago, my stomach started to burn. And those of you who know, I've had a lot of stomach issues with masses and gastritis and all this stuff. And my brain, while I was talking, immediately went to, oh my God, why is my stomach burning? Why does it feel weird? And I wanted to start pressing on it to see, I didn't, but I wanted to start pressing on it to see what was going on. I started asking myself, why is this bothering me? I've been tricked by this 1,000 times before. And then I had all these what if thoughts. What if I get, literally while I was talking about distress tolerance in the previous question, hey, Chad, good to see you. I love that I just like go rock and roll with Chad. While I was talking about distress tolerance in the last question, I was thinking to myself, all right, I'm going to do the value-driven thing here and continue going, even though I'm experiencing some distress, but what if it bites me in the ass? What if I get sick? What if I had all these what if thoughts, right? It's really hard to not stigmatize yourself when your brain feels like it's on fire. But I also know that to really be beat down by OCD, you need both components. You need the obsessions and the compulsions. And if I don't compulse, if I just have the obsessions, then that's not the disorder. That's just my brain doing its thing and being loud and obnoxious. And if I decide to say, sure, all of that can be true, and I'm going to continue talking with y'all, I'm going to continue to focus, I'm going to continue to be present, answering questions, hanging with my people, hanging with my community, that's the right thing to do. And it's important to note that I'm not doing it to feel better. I'm not doing it because I think it's going to go away and I'm going to feel great in 5 minutes. I'm doing it because if it's OCD, not interested, and I don't know for sure, maybe something's wrong with my stomach, but in this moment, I know that I get tricked every time. So if it's OCD, I don't want to give it any power, not doing that, not interested, no thank you. Number one. I sound like Joe Biden. Number one. And then number two is the expectation that it's not going to change my feelings. I think that's so important. I'm not doing this because I think that it's going to make me feel better. If I feel better after I get off this stream, then that is an icing, that is a bonus, and that is awesome. I am doing this because I promised everyone that we would support each other with OCD today. This is my value-driven decision for this hour. This is what I agreed to do. This is the responsibility I need to live up to. This is something I didn't do when I really struggled with OCD. I'd promise, and then I'd back out of responsibilities. So regardless of how I feel in this moment, without the expectation of wanting to feel better, without the expectation of I will feel better if I do this, I am simply going to be here with however I feel, with my stomach hurting and burning, and having this conversation with you and try to engage and be as present as possible without beating the shit out of myself, accepting that this is my brain, this is what it does, and it can pop up, and sometimes it can bother me, and sometimes it doesn't bother me, and that's just what it is. And the more we just continue to do that, the quieter it gets, the easier it is to engage. I mean, trust me, back in the day, like this would happen, I'd be like tearing and fighting through this. Now I can be like, yeah, I'm uncomfortable, but I'm going to assume it's nothing until I have to deal with it. And until then, I'm going to be here with y'all. So I don't necessarily always share literally what's going through my mind at this exact moment, but it seemed helpful. So why not? And I'm sorry he makes light of your COVID. He makes light of your terror of COVID. That's not okay. And on that note, I'm behind in the comments, but curious if you've had that conversation. Maybe you answer that, Beth. Great question. So I mean, most therapists, OCD therapists specialize in OCD, but they generally have a general psychologist background, which should be able to treat bipolar. I don't know that you need a specific, and I don't know that there are specific treatment providers that are bipolar only. My psychologist helped me navigate my bipolar. Also, my bipolar responded really, really well to medication. So I know some of the things that I can and can't engage in that will exacerbate. So I suffer from manic episodes. I haven't had one in probably 4 years. But I also know I can start to see the signs and back off. But my own therapist helped me. The therapist I've been with 13 years, Michelle, my OCD therapist, really helped me with that. So, Deleuze, if you're seeing someone, I would ask, if you're not seeing someone, but you want to see someone for OCD, you can also mention bipolar, and I would imagine 9 times out of 10 they'll treat that as well. For me, meds for bipolar were really, really effective and really nipped it in the bud for me, and I'm really grateful for that. Yeah. Beth, I get it. He's not scared. And the most ridiculous thing of all is that he tells me I'm not going to get it. Hilarious. I'm sorry, Beth. And I hope you know, like when I was challenging, I hope you know, maybe this is reassurance seeking, but I hope you know that we believe in you, we love you, and we're just supportive of you and care. So I hope you didn't take it any other way. And if you did, I am sorry. Summer Lemon in the house. There's some great people in Illinois. The IOCDF resource directory, if you just pop that into Google, you can search by zip code. Obviously, tons of people do. Most do teletherapy. You don't need to be in a big city in Chicago or anywhere. And so there's some great therapists. And so I would just go to their websites. Most will list what they treat in addition to OCD. And just if they list bipolar, I would look into that for sure. Summer, I'm happy to say that I've been doing a lot better these past couple of months. I started a new medication and it's done wonders for my depression. I've been much more productive lately. I've even started a website and I've been writing blog posts and articles. That's awesome. I'm so excited to hear that, Summer. Thank you so much for sharing that. Terracotta. I'm tuning in from New Mexico with limited resources for those with OCD and much stigma still exists. I was in the ER for panic attacks dissociation and I tried to explain why I was there. I'm sorry, Terracotta. That's crappy. There's lots of resources. I don't know if you've been to the IOCDF website. There are resources on there for both, just self-help resources, as well as potential treatment providers in New Mexico. And yeah, there's so much of a lack of understanding. Stigma absolutely exists. It is very real. And I'm so sorry you went through that. I really am. I've been there and been in that exact position, was hospitalized and from lack of misunderstanding in Florida. And it's not fun. So thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. And yeah, hopefully you can get some, and let us know. I mean, let us know how we can support. This question goes out to all of you. Why aren't you guys afraid of long COVID? It can be so serious and last for the rest of your life. POTS, inflammation, heart, lungs, organ in your body. It's a valid question. I would imagine I can weigh in on it, but I'm guessing some people wrote in. So let's check out the comments and we can get back to that. Zach, I love these community conversations, but sometimes I hear it verges on therapeutic advice, which might be more appropriate for an individual to speak with their therapist about. Absolutely. I'm not a therapist. I'm simply speaking about everything I've experienced on my own experience. And I say that at the very beginning, that this is not therapy. This isn't meant. These are simply my opinions as someone with lived experience, and what I know to be true based on my own experiences and everybody else's experiences. No different than people leave comments all the time about what worked for them or what didn't work for them, whether they're on here leaving a comment, but I appreciate that, Zach. And maybe that's something I need to reflect on as well. But I always suggest you should see a therapist or seek a treatment provider. Number one piece I always suggest first before I give my own personal lived experience based on what's worked for me. But thank you for that comment. Like I said, all comments are welcome. Hey, Alex, she wrote, good to see you. Yeah, Jen wrote, holidays were always my worst. 2 days after Christmas was when OCD tried to take my life. I thought the Christmas following was going to be scary. It was surreal, but I felt empowered. I was still there. I was still here. Thank you for sharing that, Jen. That's really, 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 really powerful. And I think a beautiful illustration of how, your past doesn't have to dictate your future and one event can drastically change. So thank you for that. I really, really appreciate that. Oh, whoops, sorry. What was I? Sorry. Oh, Nikki Bradley's in the house. Hi, Nikki. Isastasia shares a flat with her older sis. It's annoying as hell sometimes, but the truth is that if I were living all by myself, my compulsions and fear regarding contamination would be way worse. I'm sure they challenge you all the time. I always say, when I have a lot of food contamination fears, and when I started dating Katie, her parents love to send seafood through the mail, which is like my worst nightmare. So she'd be like, "Oh, can you get that package outside that's been sitting there for 3 hours? My parents sent crab." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm not eating that." And yeah, it can be challenging. But what's funny is like Katie really challenges my OCD, and I really challenge her OCD. And it's really actually helpful for us to be together because we're constantly triggering each other and constantly having to deal with that. So Alex, she wrote, I get same time worries where I do an action and my OCD says it's for a bad reason. How do I deal with that? I know it's sitting with the anxiety. I get some time worries where I do an action and my OCD says it's for a bad reason. So this is one of those instances where a thought is a thought is a thought is a thought. Your OCD can say a lot. My brain says a lot. And I think recognizing that a thought is a thought and doesn't make it fact is really helpful in these situations. Thank you, OCD. Thank you for suggesting that it was for a bad reason. I appreciate that. I'm going to move on now and trust myself. Doctor didn't believe my compulsions were causing me extreme fear, rhyme words constantly, and have problems with perfectionism. That makes sense, Terracotta. Again, I'm so sorry. Isostasia, when I moved in here last year, I told myself I wasn't going to wash my hands a billion times. I was not going back to that no matter what. You've done a lot of huge things, Beth. I am continuously just beaming at the things that you do, the way you show up for others and yourself, and all of the above. Let me try to scroll down here and see what I'm missing. Yeah, Deleuze, I get that. I feel like this episode of OCD is going to last forever, and I think that's a common fear, is the belief that like you're never going to shake and get out of it. And I saw that you wrote bipolar 1 in the treatment too, and I think that's totally okay, and it's a feeling, and feelings I believe are our greatest enemy in this battle against OCD. They are the great feelings are the great deceivers. They are very good at making us believe something is real, because if we think it, it's one thing. If we then feel it, that's something completely different. And so, but I want to tell you that I'm pretty sure it isn't going to last forever. And if you look at your history, and I hope you see that you've had, since I've known you, you've had some really good days and some really bad days, as we all have. And as I think somebody wrote it above, this too shall pass. I saw that quickly. And so, continue to believe in yourself, continue to give yourself lots of self-compassion and love. I know personally that navigating bipolar and OCD is really, really challenging, and can be really challenging, and they feed off each other. And so, finding stability within those episodes is really important to also manage the OCD. So I do understand that it can be complex, and I'm hoping that you can find some effective care to be able to do that as well. So, but also that doesn't mean that the skills and tools that you don't already know can't be effective either. So, oh my gosh, love Lana. Congratulations. Congratulations. I love that. Aw, congratulations. Yeah, everybody congratulated you. I'm late to the party on this. Isostasia, Beth, at least for myself, I learned to reframe living with her because I see the situation like a connection with the outside world, with the real world that we cannot control. That's true. It's huge. What can we control? What can't we control? And that reminds me, Zach, if you're still watching, it's either my experience or I'm repeating what some of the greatest therapists I've ever had the pleasure of interacting with have told me. Very little of what I say is actually original. I constantly say that I steal from the most brilliant minds, and I've never claimed they're mine, although you can't steal and claim they're yours. But regardless, and that's important for everybody to know, that if I am giving lived experience or my own suggestions about what I've experienced, or we're talking about things that have worked, everything that I'm talking about is based in a modality of treatment that has been deeply researched, that I have deeply engaged in, that has worked for me. And any insights are everything that has been said to me over the last 13 years by 100,000 different therapists that I truly believe in, that are brilliant in the field. But this is also an open space where I value everyone's thoughts and opinions as well. So, but we're saying, so control. OCD would love us to believe that we have control over, we need control over everything. We do not have control over that much. We have control over our focus and over our behavior. Those are the only things we have control over. And the minute, and I've said this 1,000 times, the minute we relinquish control, the more in control we feel. I was about to talk about COVID and this idea of controlling whether we get sick or well. But it is this grand paradox of trying to control something that is out of our control and doing everything we possibly can to find certainty in that control. When it becomes about not controlling, that's where all the power is. You are totally in control. I'm trying to, I know what I'm thinking. I'm having trouble saying it, but you are in control when you are willing to feel lack of control and willing for things to happen and knowing that you will deal with them when they do. And there is an incredible freedom in that. And it is effing hard to do. It is really hard to let go of control. And I am by no means an expert. And I am not saying I live in a constant state of, I do not. But I do know and try to remind myself and have people remind me of what I do and don't have control over. And recognize those things. And by letting go of trying to control the things I can't control, it's like the serenity prayer. There's a huge freedom in that, and just trusting that I will navigate. And Beth, I think that's ultimately what I want you to learn, or not learn, but you to believe in and trust, is that, and I know it's not the same, but like, I could go outside and get shot. I go to concerts in Atlanta. They're not great areas. There are so many things that have risk associated with them that we do. And I'm sure if I focused enough on it, I wouldn't want to do it. But I do think there's a point at which we have to take a chance in order to live our values, and we can weigh those risks, right? And OCD does a very good job of weighing risks for us. OCD is a terrible risk assessment manager. Awful. Because when I hear you, Beth, and it's so easy when we're not in your situation to see things, I always laugh because when Katie's struggling, it's so obvious to me that it's OCD. And when I'm struggling, it's so obvious to her that it's OCD. And of course, I'm like, this isn't OCD. But it is so normal for OCD to go A to Z. A to Z, right? So A is, I can't get sick. Brother, are you sick? When he says yes, Z is, I could get long COVID. See ya. And there's a lot of in between there. A ton of in between. Is he really sick? How sick is he? If you went out with him, would you get sick? Could you put on a mask and just not go with him? Maybe you drive separately. Maybe you go by yourself. Did he even have COVID to begin with? Was it just a cold? or a flu or allergies or whatever like that. Maybe you'd get COVID, maybe you wouldn't get COVID. And if you did get COVID, would you get long COVID? We don't know that you'd get long COVID. And I know that fear of I can't afford to, like, you understand what happens if I get this. Like, I can relate that to so many of my own fears, and I know somebody can too. So I know that's absolutely terrifying, and at all costs, you have to protect yourself from that. But in doing that, you're also preventing yourself from living the life that you want. And again, you need to continue to weigh, not need, but I suggest that you continue to weigh those options. I think you've done an incredible job this year. So amazing. And I know everybody here is insanely proud of you, and I couldn't be more proud of you, and especially where you've come from. But it's okay to take a chance, and OCD is going to make that chance seem a lot riskier than it is. And if you are looking for certainty, if any of you are looking for certainty around the thing that scares you, then you are going to end up with a very, very, very small life. And this is not me judging. This is me having experienced OCD in its most nasty, heinous, aggressive form, where it completely took over my life and it completely decimated it, where I couldn't even feed myself or get out of bed or function. And I may have been breathing, but that was about it. And I don't want anybody to go through that, which is why I'm on here every other week, which is why I scream advocacy for the last 13 years, which is why I share my experience as much as I possibly can. And I'll never stop doing it until there is effective, affordable, accessible care, treatment, all of the above. Nobody should have to suffer and struggle. And, we have the treatments that we have right now, and I hope that there's 1,000 times better treatments in the next 5 to 10 years, and we just keep getting better and better and better and better. But I'm so passionate. I hope, Beth, you realize I'm not picking on you. I'm so passionate about everybody being willing to take a chance. And I can't promise you that you won't get COVID, I can't promise you that you won't get long COVID. But and this goes for anybody here that's dealing with something and that you're being told, take a chance, sit with the discomfort, blah, blah, blah. No one can promise you that the things that you're afraid of or the icky feelings or whatever it is won't happen. But I can promise you, and I feel pretty sure about this, that OCD will continue to ruin your life, to make you miserable. That I am certain about, because I've never seen it not happen. And in my life, absolutely, it's malignant. And the more we give into it, the louder and angrier it gets, the more it dictates our life. And I don't want that for anybody. I don't want that for anybody. I don't want that for any of y'all. And it's crazy in this whole world of embracing uncertainty. The one thing that is certain is that if I choose OCD, I'm not choosing my life. And if you're not choosing your life and you're choosing OCD, it's going to continue to beat it down. So I hope that resonates, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from, that I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm not trying to call anybody out. This is all from just the deepest sense of love for everyone in this room and everyone who's watching and struggling, and that doesn't feel like they can get better, or feel like that it's hopeless, or feel that it is worth the risk, whatever that risk is. Because the other risk is giving up your life completely, and that becomes a certainty at a certain point. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. We're just about up. I can scroll through some comments real quick, but I think I'm feeling emotional. And I don't know if you all are feeling emotional. And I'm going to leave this live for a minute. So please feel free to leave comments, suggestions. You can agree or disagree with me. At the end of the day, I just want to help, and I've dedicated my life to helping. So for those of you that are struggling and that are really dealing with some stuff right now, I hope you found hope in this room. I hope you found a spark. I hope you heard something that resonated in some way. I hope you met someone new. Everybody in this that comes to these are so amazing at advocating and supporting in the comment thread. So I hope you found a little something extra that maybe you didn't have before today. And for those of you that are crushing it and killing it, continue talking about it. You are living proof that this stuff works. And the promise, and therapists are doing it a service that they're saying that the promise isn't that the one thing will work forever for the rest of our lives. We don't have to keep doing it. The promise is that we are injected with a skill that we will have to call upon numerous times in our lives. It is not a take once, you are good. So some people can take a medication and their OCD pretty much goes away. They can do therapy once and pretty much goes away. I don't think that is the majority of people that I've talked to in the last 13 years of advocacy. But what I do think is there is a lot of power in being able to have what we need to fight this thing. That's a powerful tool. In an age where there are diseases and disorders that require surgeries and that require doctor's visits, think about it. Like, we have a button that we can press in our brain to go, I am going to fight this shit, even if it scares the living crap out of me. And you don't have to go to a doctor to do it. Like, obviously, let me rephrase that. If you've had treatment and therapy, if you've received skills and tools, if you've been through a program and you've reached a stage of living some sense of freedom from OCD, and then you have an episode, or it's back, or it's haunting you, or you're going through a loop or a blip or whatever you want to call it, a lapse. It's not easy, but you can flip it. You can flip it, you know? And so I hope you feel empowered by that. I hope you feel that you have the skills and tools inside you. And also, do not feel bad or blame yourself or any of the above if you're struggling. Okay, I'm not sitting here saying, well, because you have the knowledge and understanding, you should be able to do this. Not saying that. It is really, really hard. And sometimes you need extra support. And sometimes that extra support isn't accessible. And that's why we're all here. But I am no means saying that you embody this information and knowledge, and therefore, you're good to go and you should have no problem doing that. Sometimes we have to go back to therapy. Sometimes we have to go back to residential, and there should be no shame in that. There should be no shame in that. Okay? There are lots of diseases that relapse. Cancer can come back. MS can attack again. Your diabetes can change even though you're doing everything right. Right? But we're not going to sit here and beat the shit out of ourselves. We can be upset and frustrated and annoyed. But that's not their fault as a disease, and we have to think of ours the same way. All right. Now I'll shut up. First of all, I want to thank, but please continue commenting, because after the stream ends, I'm going to go through everyone's comments. First of all, I want to thank the IOCDF and myself for being behind the scenes. The IOCDF is the donor-supported nonprofit. Please consider making a donation at iocdf.org/donate. And always, as always, subscribe and follow on all social media channels if you want to be notified when our live streams go live. I know we're out of time. Real quick, I just want to put this up because we talked a lot about, obviously, you can visit iocdf.org for information. If you want to reach out to the organization, why is it not here? Sorry, I apologize. I'm looking for the email address, but I don't see it. But you can always email info@iocdf.org if you have questions, if you have comments, if you want to get in touch with any of us. They will always respond. And thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for showing up for yourselves. Really, really appreciate it. So with all of that, stay safe, stay vigilant, feel the feels. Don't let OCD off the hook. And we'll see you actually my original time was on election day. And that's my original. So community conversations will pick back up 2 in a row toward the end of November. And by the way, please be caring and loving and compassionate with yourself during this really intense time in our country. Not interested in having a political conversation, simply saying, as we talked about, change can be very triggering. So continue to support yourself during everything that's going on, whichever way it shakes out. And we are here to support you as best we can. So stay vigilant, feel the feels, don't let OCD off the hook. And we will see you in a few weeks. Thanks so much. Have a good evening. Bye.